Welcome to Business Innovators Radio, featuring industry influencers and trendsetters sharing proven strategies to help you build a better life right now.
Welcome to the show. I'm Lisa Williams. Today, my guest is Asmau Ahmed. Asmau is a recognized pioneer in the field of retail, innovation, and technology. She is the founder and engineer of Plum Perfect. Plum Perfect is a patent-pending technology that analyzes social and mobile photos of consumers' skin, hair, eyes, and lips so they can identify complementary makeup colors and products for their complexion. Asmau's work has been featured in InStyle, TechCrunch, Women 2.0, Black Enterprise, Self, Glamour, Yahoo, Jet, ABC News, and more. She holds an MBA from Columbia Business School and a BS with honors in chemical engineering from the University of Virginia. She also serves on the board for Color Modules, Inc. Asmau, like many women, relied on product reviews to guide her purchasing decisions. These reviews fell short, in her opinion, for products for her individual needs. In a world where photos are rapidly replacing text as the number one mode of communication, Asmau saw an opportunity, mining the color data in photos to help shoppers make informed purchases, and in helping sellers produce effective advertisements. Her love has always been in fashion and makeup, but her real interest has always been finding solutions to problems. Welcome to the show, Asmau Ahmed.
Thank you for having me.
We're glad to have you. Well, let's get started. Today, we're going to talk about the growing number of Black women in business, how we've evolved, and what it'll take to help African American women in business run successful businesses. Let's get started. Black women have always had an entrepreneurial spirit. From our great-grandmothers who cleaned houses for a living and sold fish dinners at churches, to the many African American women who rose to the tops of their industries, including Michelle Obama, the first African American First Lady of the United States, Sheila C. Johnson, founder of BET, becoming the first African American woman billionaire, Oprah Winfrey, having the number one daytime talk show in America, Serena Williams, number one in women's singles tennis, Janice Bryant, owner of the largest minority woman-owned employment agency in the United States, and Ursula Burns, the first African American woman CEO of a Fortune 500 company. And of course, the list goes on and on. In fact, according to the 2015 State of Women-Owned Business Report, the number of women-owned businesses grew by 74% between 1997 and 2015. The report also stated that 33% of women-owned firms are owned by minority women, and Black females are amongst the fastest growing group of entrepreneurs in the U.S. It's wonderful to know that African American women entrepreneurs are the fastest growing segment of entrepreneurs in the U.S. What a great statistic. So it's important that we don't let this momentum die. Now, more than ever, African American women entrepreneurs need resources available to help them not just be in business, but grow in business. The biggest hurdle African American women business owners face is that many are first-generation entrepreneurs, and they lack exposure to other Black women in business that have successful businesses from which they can glean habits and proven processes from. Let's look at an example of just how important having a role model accessible to you can be. Here is what Jessica Alba, actress and CEO of The Honest Company, said about having someone that you can call on.
As far as mentors go, countless. I was not shy about making phone calls to many people. I've been fortunate enough to know people like Tory Burch and Diane von Furstenberg, and they, got lots of emails and phone calls from me along the way with tears in my eyes saying, I don't know if this is possible. Why is everyone telling me no? What do I do? What does it even mean to get venture capital? What is venture capital? What's a board? I just didn't know all these business terms. And so they helped me understand it. And it's nice having women that you can look to and rely on.
Incidentally, her husband, Cash Warren, a Yale graduate, producer, and tech investor, introduced Jessica to his childhood friend, Brian Lee, an entrepreneur who co-founded LegalZoom. And the women Jessica reached out to, Tory Burch, who is a New York fashion designer, and Diane von Furstenberg, who is a billion-dollar fashion designer. Unfortunately, most African American women don't have the same access and connections that Jessica Alba was blessed with. Black female entrepreneurs need a supportive network of African American women business owners that we can learn from. It's time to talk, share, and provide resources and roadmaps to Black women in business. We need successful mentors to inspire African American women on their journey in business. I have lined up a variety of successful, prominent, and leading African American women in business across many industries to share their paths and secrets to their success. They will discuss their journey not only as women in business, but more importantly, how they grew successful businesses in spite of the unique challenges faced by African American women business owners. Forgive my cloudy voice, but the show must go on. So let's get into the show.
So my first question to you is, how do you feel about being part of this historical time for African American women in business?
You know, it is an honor. It is exciting to know that you are participating in a movement in a time where the work that you do is affecting future generations.
Yes.
It's also daunting for that same reason.
Sure.
But, you know, it's an exciting time, and it really encourages me to do more and to do better.
Excellent. So a good story isn't a good story until we can understand where you started. How'd you get started in your business?
So, you know, there are a couple of factors that led me to launching Plum Perfect. Like you said in the intro, I am an engineer. I am an engineer by training and also an engineer at heart, which means that I love to solve problems. That's what gets me excited. I operate really best at that intersection of creativity, business, and technology. And so I've always aspired to do something that really is in that sweet spot. I started Plum Perfect particularly because I saw a trend in the industry, but I also correlated that trend to what I was experiencing and what I saw my friends were experiencing in real life. So the trend really is that we are in a period of time where our mode of communication and the way we talk to each other, the way we communicate on social media, on our mobile devices, is really shifting from where we use text to photos. So that was the trend I saw.
Sure.
The problem that I experienced was that, you know, as a busy professional woman with a family and with kids, I just didn't have time to go browsing through products to shop and find the right ones for me. And so I thought, how neat would it be if I can actually just take a photo, and from that photo, I would be able to find products that were personalized for me. You know, and this really applies in several different industries. Beauty was the one that you mentioned, where you take a photo of your face and instantly you find makeup products suited for your face, for your skin color. Likewise, you could take a photo of a dress and we would find accessories that would match that dress, or a photo of a couch and we would find throw pillows that would match that couch. So so that was really what inspired me. Was I saw a trend and I saw a problem, and I knew that merging the two would be very compelling in the marketplace. And what I had to figure out was how to merge the two. How do I actually get from this idea to the actual product that would be in the marketplace?
How do I accomplish that?
How do I accomplish that?
Yes.
Yes.
So being a chemical engineer, I mean, most of us don't grow up and say, I want to be a chemical engineer. So take me back a step further.
Sure.
When you were younger, how did that desire get fed, get fueled?
Well, my dad was a civil and aeronautical engineer, and we had a lot of engineering books in our home. Tons of encyclopedias and all of his college notes. And I took an interest in the math and the sciences from a very, very early age. Actually, while I was in middle school, my parents turned our laundry room into a chemistry lab for me.
Wow.
And hired a tutor. So I was that interested in the sciences from a young age. My dad was trained as a civil aeronautical engineer. We had all of these resources around us. And he practiced as an engineer for a while and then went into business. Kind of like what I'm doing now. But by the time I was born, he wasn't actively practicing as an engineer. I really don't know. I just think that I just had an affinity for the sciences. I loved it. I loved math. I loved organic chemistry. I was that nerd, in high school. They called me, actually, my nickname, this is actually quite embarrassing, but my nickname was Ababio, who was the author of our chemistry book, textbook at the time.
And that was your nickname.
That was my nickname. How sad is that? But yes, I don't know. I loved it, and my parents saw that early on in me and encouraged it. So.
Let's talk for a moment about women in tech, and then maybe we can even delve down one more level, African-American women in tech. Mm-hmm. This industry lacks African-American in general and women. Can you speak to your path and how you navigated working in this field?
Sure. I will say that, in college, I knew that I was being, I was being rated based on my grades, right? You do the work. If you do it well, you get a high grade. And for me, that was easy. I knew that my, whatever criteria was used to judge me was very objective, right? Okay. You either got it right or you got it wrong. So I had no insecurities whatsoever in college. And then I got into the workforce where, I worked for, a large company, which will, I'll go unnamed. And, the reality of being, in college, I was one of very few, but
very few women or very few black women?
Well, both. Very few women and also very few black women.
Okay.
And in the workforce, I was the only black woman. The only black woman until 2 years later, where they hired another black woman, and this was a workforce of over 500 employees. And so,
and what were the tech-oriented employees?
One other woman that was tech-oriented, just two of us after 2 years, right? The others were not. It was tough. It was tough not having role models, like you said. Most of the people in higher positions were male and not black, all other races but black. And so it was hard to see myself in a senior position within this, at least within this organization. I just couldn't picture myself. And as a young adult, coming out with so many aspirations and an eagerness to work so hard and to prove myself, at that point was where I felt, looking back, I was a sponge for knowledge. I could have used a mentor so badly. And that's what I hope that we can do for this next generation, is have so much more role models for them to look up to. And, what you said about Jessica saying mentorship countless, absolutely agree with that. You cannot have enough mentors, and enough mentors that share a commonality with you. Culture, experiences is something that you cannot replicate.
And hurdles that you can relate to help them navigate.
Absolutely.
So let's kind of go, tell me who your ideal client is that you can help with Plum Perfect.
Sure. So when you think of Plum Perfect, so I'll ask you for a second, Lisa, to forget everything you know about Plum Perfect, right?
Okay.
For a second. What we've built really is a really highly targeted search engine, right? So think of all the search engines you know, but it works it has two distinctions. One is that it uses photos and not text, right? Two is that whatever you search for is personalized towards you based on the item in your photo. So both of us can both be looking for shoes. You get the shoes that work for you. I get the shoes that work for me. You get the makeup that works for you. I get the makeup that works for me. So when you think of it that way, sorry, please go ahead.
No, I was saying good deal.
Okay. Oh, yes. So when you think of it that way, we're both a shopping and an advertising platform that's heavily data-driven. And when I think of companies that we can help, one of the attractive things about our technology is that we can work with companies across multiple industry groups, any industry group. Our particular focus right now is beauty. So if I think of people that I can help immediately, because we've built a technology really around people taking selfies and finding the perfect makeup match, the brand. One of the issues with brands is that they have a blind spot. They can't see you and they can't see me. So when they make products in certain colors and they're trying to figure out who to market that product to, it's almost nearly impossible for them to figure that out. So what Plum Perfect does is that we eliminate that blind spot and we say, you just made this foundation product, you really should send it to Lisa. It's a perfect match for her. Or you just made this lipstick. Asmau is a professional woman. She goes to work every day. This is the type of lipstick that she would wear to work, and it also matches her color signature or her color profile. So those are the people that we help in terms of increasing the yield for every dollar that they spend on their marketing and advertising programs. But then we also help the users. So when I built this technology, I wanted to be that consumer advocate. I didn't want our technology to be viewed as another advertising, broad and blind advertising. So, for example, I'll use you an example, Lisa, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Let's say that you were shopping at a retail store and you were about to buy a certain lipstick and you're wondering, should I buy this? You can actually use our app and scan that lipstick and we would tell you, Lisa, that actually doesn't work for you, right?
You don't even need to have your girlfriend with you.
Exactly. So, we're that completely unbiased recommendation. So around this core search engine that I just described to you, there's so many ways. And that's the beauty of what we built. I get excited when I talk about this. Can you tell?
Yes, I can.
Is that there's so many applications of it. So one of it is what I just described to you of going into the store and scanning the product and we'll say, no, not for you. You should consider buying this color instead. Right? So we call that the makeup police.
Okay, makeup police, yes.
The makeup police. There is another product that we have that we recently launched that was just featured in the press that we're super excited about. It's called BeauTV, and that's short for Beauty Television. So it actually has the ability to make every YouTube and Instagram tutorial shoppable with products personalized for the person viewing the video. Wow. So imagine that there are two women, one super light skin and one really dark skin. They're both watching the same video at the same time. And in the video, the blogger or the makeup artist is saying, I'm applying this concealer under my eyes to cover my under eye shadows. The light skin woman will be getting recommended products, the concealer that she should use for her light skin tone, and the dark skin woman will be getting recommended products that she should use for her dark skin tone. So if you think about this industry, that's $111 billion industry in terms of beauty tutorials, we have the ability to participate very heavily and to potentially change the course of how people shop for makeup products. So for me, that's exciting.
That is exciting. That's amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I love it.
Thank you.
So with Plum Perfect in mind, let's talk about what the path has been like for you as you have been developing this technology in terms of being an African-American woman in business. So
how much time do you have?
How much time do you have? let me get us a cup of
forever.
tea. Right.
Okay.
Oh, God, that's great. What can you share with other African-American women business owners about starting, staying, and sticking it through to reach a level of success in their business?
Okay. I am going to speak from the heart and speak honestly because I want other African-American women listening to this to be motivated to do this. Now, look, when we hear about the challenges that Black women or Black people face in general, we're told all the time, you just have to work harder.
Yep.
You work harder. You cannot. You have to be that much better than the next person. Your resume has to stand out, right?
Mm-hmm.
So let me share my story with Plum Perfect. Plum Perfect, like I shared earlier, was born from an idea, and from an experience, also born from a trend I saw in the marketplace, and also born from what I desired to do, which was operate in that intersection between technology, business, and creativity.
Okay.
And so I started by building the technology. So I built Plum Perfect really from an idea into a product. And I did that by first starting out with just building out the logic, and then over time, getting more people to join me in terms of their expertise in building out the product. And then the next challenge for me was really to see if this product had any legs. So I'm still in my product incubation mode. I haven't really interacted with anybody yet, right?
Okay.
So I'm still like talking to my friends and family and figuring out, okay, would you use this? How would this work? Etc. And at this time, I was at Columbia Business School. I was just graduating. I went out and got a job in finance. But really my passion was engineering, so I continued to work on this at night. I joined a program called ASTIA. At the time that I joined it, it was an accelerator program that incubated women in technology.
Okay.
And so, I joined thinking, I would be able to, increase my, get connections in industry and really do an MVP, a minimal viable product, to see if this actually worked. How interested were people in this? Through that, I met our first investors. And when you start getting money in, there's a certain amount of there's a huge responsibility and obligation that comes with that, which is you have to give your investors a return on their investment.
Sure.
Period. And as an engineer, I had viewed this product, but I have to admit that in the beginning, I hadn't quite figured out exactly how we were going to make money from it, because that wasn't really my goal. What I really liked was the engineering and the product development. Now, I did go to business school. I do have a business angle, but at this point, we just had a product and we had an idea of how we could make money, but it wasn't a solid idea.
Okay.
Okay.
And
so
tell me
I
how
would say I was.
Go ahead.
Sorry. Please go.
No, I was just going to say, tell me how you're relating that start that you had with someone starting, staying, and sticking it through to reach a level of success in their business.
Correct. The start that I had was without sounding pompous, I had a strong resume.
Okay.
And I had a product. Right. So from my resume, you could tell that, I was an engineer, I had a business degree, and I had a solid product that worked. I had built a minimal viable product. I did that, and I had vetted with my friends and family and my classmates that this had legs. And what I did was I went to investors with a product, with a plan that I now admit, I did not admit this to our investors, but I admit this in hindsight, that I wasn't 100% sure of would make money. Sure. But it was a plan that I could justify, okay? And this was how I went to investors and said, give me some money And this is where you have angel investors, right? Angel investors are investors that come in early. They understand that the business concept hasn't quite been proven yet, or that they're taking in more risk because you haven't really generated revenues, or you don't have the intellectual property, whatever it is. Everybody's case is different.
Okay.
They give you a small amount of money to help you build it to the next level where you can get venture capital funding. I got my first chance of making this a success, my first angel investment. And I remember my first meeting with them was on a weekend, and I shared the technology with them, and we had recommended a product that had in her makeup bag. And right away she said, I'm investing in you, because we had a product that worked.
That's excellent.
So this is, for all of us, for all entrepreneurs, particularly for Black entrepreneurs, Black women entrepreneurs, you have to go in prepared. You have to let your resume speak ahead of you. You have to let your product speak ahead of you. You have to let your plan speak ahead of you, your vision, whatever that is. So I went in and I was successful in getting this infusion of capital to help test out this business plan that I had. And, I had successes and I had failures along the way. Right. And what really has sustained me over the years has been the ability to pivot when I saw something wasn't working, right?
That's a very good nugget. Mm-hmm.
Yes. You fail, you pick up very quickly, you turn around and try something else.
So, Asmau, tell me, what was really hard for you? I mean, honestly, think of one of the most challenging times in your business that was really hard for you. And what did you do to get past that?
Okay, if I was to put it down to one, the most challenging time in the business for me was when we were at a point where we were making money, but we weren't making enough money to grow. And I wasn't able to attract more capital to enable that growth. Mm-hmm. And it was the most difficult time because I felt helpless. I felt that here we are, we're making headway, we really need this capital infusion, and I really need somebody, like Viola Davis said, the only thing that differentiates us from anybody else is opportunity. I lived that. Because I was like, here we are with a great product, a great technology, here we are with making money, here we are with potential clientele, a great business plan at this point, but we're not able to attract capital. Why is that? I questioned everything, I have to say. I questioned, you begin to look deeper. It's hard for every entrepreneur, regardless of race, to raise money. Mm-hmm. It is harder for women entrepreneurs to raise money. Mm-hmm. And
even harder.
Even harder for black women entrepreneurs.
Yes.
Running a tech company.
Oh, another
right?
level. That's right.
To raise money.
We're about 4
I cannot tell
down
you
now.
How many times, and this is a big pet peeve of mine, how many times I have walked into a room of investors and I finish my presentation. Now, in my presentation, I present that we're technology, right? Mm-hmm. And the visuals in my presentation have people of all races. Okay?
Okay.
There weren't any more black people than there were Asian people or white people, equally distributed, because I do pay attention to that. And at the end of the presentation, I get asked questions around, so you're, a black woman that is building a beauty product, not a technology, a beauty product for other black women.
Wow.
As much as that is true in a sense, it diminishes what I do on so many levels.
Right.
And so, I say, no, we are a technology that has built a product that caters to all women, that happens to put the needs of black women at equal footing to the other women, right? Because, yes, I am a black woman, so I do consider how this works for black women. Yes, I do. So So yes, going back, that was the toughest time for me.
And how'd you get past it? How'd you get past that feeling of
the hard way? I had to look at every single dollar that we spent. I had to make hard decisions. I had to cut costs where I needed to. I needed to work harder in terms of bringing in new accounts. I needed to continue to leverage relationships that I had in the past that had kind of died down. I needed to go to people and say, here is what I have. Here is what I've built. You need to believe in me. Here are the risks. Here are the potential benefits. Are you in or are you out? And it was really just pounding the pavement, doing work day in, day out, while trying to keep the business afloat.
Yeah, that's a great share. So we have other Black women that have accomplished great successes, like those mentioned earlier. Others such as Taraji P. Henson, Kamala Harris, Shonda Rhimes, and the list just goes on.
Yes.
Can you share a nugget, Asmau, to help women that are just starting in business?
This may seem so simple, Lisa, but the reality is, just get started.
Get started. Mm-hmm.
Just get started. Stop procrastinating. Stop coming up with every single reason why you shouldn't. You think of an idea, you think of a concept. You're one person, right? Get started. Get the opinions of, let the market or your consumers inform you about whether or not this is a good idea. And if it's not, then stop. But don't stop yourself from realizing that potential before you even get started. Excellent. I can't tell you how many times I've seen that. And even when I come up with, how many times I shared Plum Perfect as an idea to so many people, and before I even got started, they would say to me, but how are you going to do this? And how are you going to do that? But isn't this a problem? And isn't that a problem? And it wasn't like they were haters or they were trying to get me not to get started on this idea or business. I think it's just human nature to automatically think, what are the issues? So whenever somebody comes to me with an idea, I always make it a point to say, and I'm honest, hey, that's a great idea. Okay, that's a great concept. Why do you want to do it?
That's excellent, because you're not going into the negative side.
Let's not go into the negatives. Let's talk about the positives first, and then let's turn the negatives into constructive problems that we can solve. So never, and then, as a mentor to other young women and other young Black women that are starting businesses, it's not presenting the problem, but it's also presenting the problem with a solution, with a potential solution. So I may say, your biggest challenge may be customer acquisition. But in the beginning, to acquire customers, you may need to want to start a referral program, at
problem solution. Mm-hmm.
Validate the idea, share what the challenges may be. That way you arm her or him with a solution, with a potential solution.
Right. That's a great share for someone just starting out. Thank you.
Sure.
So what would you say is most important to have a successful business, if you just name one thing?
One thing to have a successful business, I would say build and nurture relationships. That's one thing that I would say is absolutely critical. You cannot build a successful business by yourself in a vacuum. A friend recently told me that she built relationships with her potential clients and partners the way she would expect a man courting her to build a relationship with her. Right? So she wants to trust him. She wants to be attracted to him. She wants to like him and his personality. She wants the people around her, her family, to like her, to like him. Right? So when you're building a relationship with your clients or with your customers, you have to take that into account. You want to develop trust. You want to be valid to them. You want it to be a two-way street, essentially. You want to also gain her trust as well as the trust of other people around her. And that's what we've tried to do with Plum Perfect, is to gained the trust. We've grown to, we're now in 150 countries. We have a ton of users that subscribe to our platform. And we did that without spending any marketing dollars. And we did that by word of mouth and by building trust with our clients. So I would say build and nurture relationships. Excellent. With investors, with clients, with customers. That is the one thing that I know has served me well.
And if you could share something with your younger self, let's say 15 years ago, about being in business, what would that be?
Clearly define what success means to you and start now.
That's what you would say to your younger self.
That's what I would say to my younger self. You know, I think when I was younger, I think I always had ambition. I always had drive. I knew that I wanted to do something groundbreaking in whatever form that is, right? But I didn't have parameters around what that meant. You know, to some, you know, being successful, to most people, being successful is making more money.
Right.
To other people, being successful is how many lives do you touch? Mm-hmm. You know, to other people, being successful is building this awesome product, right? I would say to myself 15 years ago, if I were starting a business then, is to clearly define what success means to me. And then once I've done that, to then clearly define the path to get there. Nice. If it's making money, I need a very clear business plan about how I'm going to make money, right? And it cannot be fuzzy. Like, it has to be real. Excel spreadsheet, whip that up, figure out how much things cost. No, seriously, how much things cost, how much you can realistically make, what it's going to take for you to sell to make that. I mean, you have to be you have to be your own worst critic when it comes to the numbers. You have to underestimate the revenues, overestimate the cost, and then work hard to accomplish that. And hopefully you'll come out on the positive end.
That's excellent. Yeah. So as I explained in the introduction, one of the greatest challenges African-American women face in business is the lack of successful African-American women role models in their communities, in our communities. So let's talk now specifically about the unique challenges African-American women business owners face. And I'm going to just kind of go through very quickly a list of common challenges that African-American women in business face, and listen to it and tell me which one you might want to share and comment on. That was a challenge for you.
Sure.
So one is family. They didn't understand your entrepreneurial walk. Another is friends. Friends didn't own their own business, and so you didn't have someone to kind of bounce ideas off of that was an entrepreneur. No role model to call on. Unfortunately, especially your industry, not a ton of African-American women in tech, 10 years ago. Business terms and acumen. A lot of times, African-American women, we don't know important business terms, like Jessica Alba shared that she didn't know. Seeking capital. Not only don't we know what's required many times to raise capital, but our credit worthiness, our character worthiness, all of that. Juggling being a single parent or a single woman and the challenges of trying to grow a business with regard to that. Lacking relationships, investing in ourselves. Many times we don't do personal development seminars as African Americans. And the last one is volunteering. Most of the time, we're not taught and brought up as other cultures to volunteer, to give, other than with regard to church many times. So,
gosh, Lisa, isn't that sad that that's such a long list?
Isn't that sad? I mean, that was a pretty long list.
That's such a long list. It is.
And I know that those are challenges that all entrepreneurs face, but some of them are specific to Black women.
To us. Yeah. You know, I think we face the challenges other entrepreneurs face. It's just dialed up.
Yeah.
Right? It's dialed up. So the one that I would like to address is really the lack of role models. and we've touched on it, but I want to touch on it some more because I think that it is critical to our success. We've had others that have had generations of role models, generations of success. And it's not just the role model itself. It's the fact that these role models are able to invest in them, both financially, right, knowledge-wise, relationships, connections, networks. So it's not just that one person that I'm looking up to and saying, oh, you're another Black woman, I can look up to you. No, it's the fact that you're there to actually pull me up and help me make connections, build relationships, invest in me with financial capital.
Make viable introductions.
Make viable introductions to people that would invest in me. Those are the value of that cannot be overestimated. So I'll share my personal story. I have been extremely lucky to have grown up in a family of successful Black women. My mom was an attorney. She was not a business owner. So I did have her as a role model to look up to in terms of success. I realized that a lot of people in our community don't have that today.
No.
And, but a lot of us, that does not diminish the will for success that we have in any way, shape, or form. I cannot tell you how many brilliant young women that I have seen and met that did not have the secure upbringing that I did, but have the dreams to reach and just as much capability to get there.
Sure.
However, I still face very, very unique challenges that only us as Black women can face. I face very unique challenges as a Black woman that ran a tech company, as a Black woman engineer, and as a Black woman engineer running a tech company with a family and all of the challenges that women have in general. The reality is there just weren't enough of us to call on, period. Right? So for me, and it just weren't that many. And when I think of Black women in technology roles that I would think about calling on, I knew that I didn't know how to get to them. And sometimes they were insurmountable. I thought about Ms. Burns, CEO of Xerox. How do I reach her? Right? How do I even begin to get to her, to get the conversation started? I would love to meet her, by the way, if she's listening. And
we just thought we'd put that out there.
Yeah, I thought I'd put that out there. But, other Black women, not enough of us. So what I did was I called on anyone and everybody to give me a chance. And then I started looking for support groups that I could relate to. Women focus groups. I have been fortunate to have been funded by Capor Capital, who makes it a point to invest in diversity in diverse businesses. Golden Seeds, who invests in women.
Excellent.
So I found these avenues to kind of build a network. Now, the second thing is that I've learned that it takes a very unique person to get past what they want me to be, to see who and what I am, So where they think Black woman running a beauty company for Black women, it takes somebody else to think Black woman engineer running a technology company that caters to all women, including Black women.
Very different mindset.
A different mindset. And so I've tried to reach those people. And, I don't have a solution because the reality is that there's just few of us, right? And so we're just going to have to be comfortable expanding our network and pounding the pavement a little bit more to find those unique individuals and unique people that can see beyond who they think you should be to who you really are.
Sure.
And that would give you the opportunity.
So, Asmau, tell me, you said your mom was an attorney, but not an entrepreneur, a lawyer.
Yes.
Did you grow up with entrepreneurial examples, or are you a first-generation entrepreneur?
I grew up with, it was a very different time. The reason I'm hesitating is being an entrepreneur when I was growing up is very different from being an entrepreneur now, specifically in the field that I play in the technology digital space.
Sure.
So it's a very different concept. My dad, after running as after his engineering career, did start a business, and so I had that as a up until you asked me that, I didn't really see that as a proxy for me being an entrepreneur today, really, because it feels to me like I am a first generation entrepreneur.
Okay.
Because it is so different. This concept of all of the challenges we face today, raising capital, building a consumer base, selling a tech product or a digital product, amidst all of the competition that we have today, just did not exist when I was growing up.
Right. No, that makes sense. It really does. So there are many articles online about entrepreneurs and their success stories or challenges that they had to overcome. But there are very few about or current-day women and what they've gone through, and definitely not specific articles sharing what African-American business women have gone through, those details. What did you do when you got stuck, overwhelmed, ran out of money, or possibly felt like quitting? What did you do?
I liked how you said those details. We know what that means. The details.
Yeah.
Yes. So, yes, we have the challenges every other woman faces. Balancing taking care of your home and your business. But we're also aware of the limits that others place on us just by the virtue of our skin color. So we have that additional challenge. Look, I never give up. I don't know. I've never given up. For me, is not who I am. I'm not sure how else to say this, but for me, I don't think it's a virtue of, my skin color. I don't care. And this is one thing that I thank my parents for, and I thank, the people around me for, is that I've never, ever, ever, ever thought that anybody else was smarter than me, more accomplished than me, was more capable than me. And so for me, the thought of, there've been hard times, right? There've been really, really hard times. And yes, I have asked myself many, many, many times, and I know there's a reality of, I don't know if you saw the recent article on Project Diane, where there were just 12 black women entrepreneurs that had raised over $1 million. 12. That is embarrassing.
True.
So there is definitely a correlation between our skin color and the amount of money we're able to raise. And there are many times I've sat down in my bedroom in bed at night after a really tough day thinking, what the heck am I doing? Do I think this, young, white, middle-aged man is going to look at me as a black woman with my natural hair, my dark skin, and say, yes, she's an engineer I want to invest in? Sometimes I think, how stupid are you? Do you really think that you can get this done?
Right. That's real.
Right? But then I reflect. I think back but I say, I can. Sometimes it's completely irrational, but I know that I can get it done. I just know I can. I know I can.
How did you get past
that
thought, that mindset at that moment? How did you get past that?
I think it's just an inbred belief in myself that no matter what obstacles come my way, or no matter how many no's I hear, and I know that, all of us entrepreneurs, we get together, and I'm sitting next to an entrepreneur that's not white. She's saying, I've heard so many no's, and I'm thinking to myself, I've heard probably 10 times more no's than you have, but we would let's get past that. But, I know that I have to meet 10 times as many people as she would meet.
Right.
Right? I have to resolve in myself that I am not giving up. and put together a very, very clear plan or goal of reaching that next level. I recently, talking about role models and financial investments and not giving up, I recently met a mentor that is not in the tech field, but a recently very accomplished mentor. She's a black woman, young black woman, that worked at the IFC and ran women's investing at the IFC. And it was a relief to hear her say to me, validate my thinking to know that I wasn't being paranoid. Yes, you are not getting money because you are a black woman. Now, we are going to help you get past that.
Right.
Right.
Nice to hear.
Nice to hear. I'm not, and that this is not a conversation that you can have with everybody.
No, it isn't.
So yeah, it was about really having that, your internal compass and your internal dreams that nobody can quench. Even no matter what you're going through, you still have that desire and that drive.
And belief.
And so it's about translating that into action.
Okay.
Yeah.
So as we move on, and work. Let's remember the work.
Yeah. The work. Yeah.
So as we move on, what didn't you have when you were building your business that you wish you would have? Can you just name one thing?
A partner.
Yes.
A partner. I started off my business kind of in a vacuum, like I said, typical engineer, building the product. I did not think of getting and quite frankly, I'd admit that in the beginning I was very protective of the product and what I had built. But I would, so if I were starting a new business now, I would absolutely get a partner. I'll get somebody that complements my strengths and makes up for my weaknesses. Somebody to share in the pains, because there are many.
Yes.
Those moments where you're feeling down and you want someone, you need that lift up. Somebody say, "Come on, we can do this. We got this," right? And sharing the glory as well, right? So there's so many successful moments that I've had, and those successes don't mean as much when there's nobody that you can really share them with.
Yeah.
To celebrate with, So sharing those small, I celebrate with my family, but it's different when you've been through the pains with somebody and you're like, yes,
true.
True. This
we
is our
made
first
it
check,
through.
so let's frame it.
Yeah. No, that's very important, and it helps keep you going. Yeah. So now let's have a little fun.
Okay.
I'm going to complain about something for a moment.
Okay.
Our black businessmen, they're showing us out, and that's not going to work. Tyler Perry has shared his homeless to success story. Eric Thomas, the motivational hip-hop preacher, has the homeless to PhD story. Us ladies, we've got to get our stories out and document it so African-American women in business have some inspiration when they're feeling low or searching online to learn what other women did in challenging times. So I ask you, Asmau, together, let's see if we can create your rags to riches story or your hero story.
Sure.
What would you say?
So I have to say, I hear you. Our men are a lot better at creating these stories and that's, I think that's great for them. I think the more successes we can tell of black men, the better. We all know that we need them, particularly now. But we also know that there are a lot of black women success stories, and a lot more work that we do by virtue of being a woman.
Correct.
That deserves a lot of attention that we haven't been getting. So I don't know if I have a rags to riches story, but
hero story.
If a hero story, so I'll use your word. If heroes are born from triumphant in times of hardship, I can share that I've had my good portion of those. So I'll share a short story with you. I built this product technology, and I shared with you earlier that we got our first round of investment. To raise money the following times were tough. I was raising around when I was 9 months pregnant.
Wow.
With my first son. That was tough. to do. I was doing this actually while, and my investors did not notice. If they are listening to this, it would be interesting to get their reaction to this. I was actually supposed to be on bed rest. But here I was getting on planes, traveling, moving around. And I had my son, and my son happened to be born with special needs.
Okay.
And
I have a special needs son as well, so I know that challenge.
Okay. I feel like reaching out and giving you a hug over the phone.
Exactly.
Because we know the challenges that we face as mothers in general, right? Running a business, because your business is your baby, right?
Sure.
You're nurturing this thing. You're also building a home. So for me, it was the guilt, the mental capital I had to just invest in taking care of my son.
I love that. Mental capital.
Yes. And also taking care of the business.
Mm-hmm.
There was only so much I had and so many hours in the day that I did not know how I could possibly do it or balance both. And that was and there's also the emotional aspect to it, right? So that was very, 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 very hard. I've gotten to a point now where my son is doing really well. And, business is doing well, and we've managed to balance it. But there were periods where, Lisa, I would come home and my son wouldn't be speaking. Like, I felt like he needed me in that moment, but I hadn't invested presentation where this was a one-time deal.
Right.
What do I do?
Mm-hmm.
Where do I go? What choices do I make? Am I a bad mother for going to this investor meeting when my son needs me right now?
Right.
So
the pull.
It was a pain. And, I was, I don't have Tyler Perry's story or that of Eric Thomas where, it's really a dramatic rags to riches. But a lot of entrepreneurs, when you first start out, are poor.
Mm-hmm. Right.
We don't have money. No, seriously, because we invest in our businesses. If you're working, you're investing in your businesses. So you are literally living on no salary,
right,
or paycheck to paycheck. And you don't know where that next paycheck is going to come from. This is something that we have lived. I have lived. And it's harder when you live it the first time and your business picks up, and then you have to live it a second time because your business tanks, and then you have to pivot again.
Yep.
That is the hard part because you have to rebuild momentum. So what I've learned to do is on my slide down, I use that to rebuild momentum. As hard as that is, you know that you're sliding down, it's a horrible feeling. But at the same time, while you're sliding down, you're building momentum to pick back up. And you have to focus on that momentum you're building to pick back up to really get you past that hurdle. My most honest reflection was myself, and that at that moment that I had something that had legs. I had something that nobody else had in the product, in the technology that we built, and someone's going to have to see that, right? I mean, it's at this point, it's not a matter of race. It's a matter of here's what she's built. And it could make money for us. It's a business decision. And I knew that if people were just thinking from a business perspective solely, that they would utilize what I had built.
And I have come up with your story from the story you just shared. From pregnancy, pregnancy to profit.
I love that. Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's a great share. Thank you. Thank you. Honestly, that's a great share. Many women need to hear that because we have these personal stories and challenges and decisions that we have to make, that we have to walk through. And we don't always, share that because why would you? So thank you.
And you don't always feel like people can relate. Usually the people you're talking to aren't women.
True. That's the nice part about this, yes.
Yeah, yeah.
So switching directions for a moment, you spoke a little bit about it, but tell me what your feelings are. What are your thoughts on collaboration instead of competition?
I think that really is a question that boils down to market size, opportunity, and value creation. What I mean is, if the market is large enough to accommodate more than one player, right, and you can compete with each other and still make money, why not? If you are, and I think there's also a risk component as well. If you're willing to spread the risk with somebody else that's playing in your space, where you would say, rather than I make 100 and you make 0, let's spread the risk and collaborate and we both make 50-50, right? Right. That is a decision that, I think it's a business decision. I don't think it's one where you think, oh, should I just collaborate with this person? I think, as a smart business person, you have to look at what is the market size? What are the opportunities of collaborating with you as opposed to doing it myself? What is the risk and opportunity? How does that balance itself out? And how much value can we create by collaborating? Are we better independent of each other? If we come together, are we creating more value for our clients, and can we command more, and as a result make more money? So for me, when I hear that question, Lisa, I immediately think about the numbers.
Sure.
Right.
No, and that's a great share. What you shared is very valuable. One of the things I share with regard more specifically to competition with business owners that I work with, especially women, is how they can succeed without having to compete by implementing the power of positioning and leveraging the media to build their brand.
I love that. I love that.
Because a lot of times, you are unique. Your technology is unique to every other technology that's out there. So I have always, I played basketball, and I always competed against myself and raised my own bar. And I didn't really focus on, what other people's talent levels were and so on and so forth. And the same applies with business, you know.
Yeah, I cannot agree with you more.
And there's so many opportunities to leverage social media, being in the media, so many ways to build your brand without, worrying about the competition.
Absolutely. I agree with you. It's good to be aware of the competition.
Yes.
But really setting your own, aware of the competition just as a benchmark.
Yes.
But I love the analogy with sports because I'm also, I try to be very active. I love the analogy because I'm a runner. So I find that when I'm constantly looking at somebody that's running next to me, I'm actually a lot slower. But when I'm focused on just moving forward, I have my best runs. So absolutely.
Great analogy. Yeah. So, Asmau, how do you think we can move forward and turn that growing number, that statistic that I shared of African American women in business, into successful million, multi-million, and billion-dollar businesses? How do you think we can move that
that's
forward?
An easy one. That's an easy one, Lisa. Let's not lose sight of where we came from, and let's support each other.
Nice.
We need more role models. We need more investments, and more investments are going to come from us. So we need to support each other. That's simple.
To get in the position to financially support one
Financially support each other, yes.
Nice. And what impact would you like to make as an African American woman in business over the next 10 years?
I hope that other young African American women can look up to me. And I hope that I'm still really very much on my journey. I hope that wherever my journey leads me is one that inspires other people, other young women and African American women to get to that same place and let them know that it is achievable. And then I'm going to answer that selfishly from my standpoint.
Yes, please do.
From my standpoint, I want to reach that level of success where people are no longer looking at me from the lens of black woman engineer. They're just looking at me from the lens of success. This is what she's achieved. It's on par. I build a search engine that's on par with what Google has done. And people
love it.
That's my goal.
So do you have a mentor at this juncture in your business?
I have many mentors. And I continue to take on more mentors.
Do you have a suggestion for Black women in business on how to approach or seek a mentor?
So I think that you have to have very specific asks, right? Mm-hmm. You should start with finding a mentor that's aligned with what you're looking to achieve. So in order for that mentor to be useful to you, you want to make sure that you know what your ask is. Okay, so start there.
Okay.
Right? Start with figuring out, what do I really want to accomplish? And then go look for people that can help you accomplish those things. And then when you reach out to them and meet them, one of the things that I suggest is say to them, I would love to take you to coffee. I'll bring coffee to your office, and I will only take 15 minutes of your time. I have 3 questions.
Nice.
Okay?
Very concise.
Very concise. You know that everyone's busy, and that works. You just say, here's who I am. Very clearly, here's what I'm trying to accomplish on a high level, because nobody has time to read a 5-page email.
Mm-hmm.
I'd love to bring coffee to your office, or snacks to your office, whatever it is. I have 3 questions, and I promise to only take up 15 or 30% of the 30 minutes of your time. And then when you get that meeting, you need to be ready to go in there to ensure that this mentor knows that you're worth her time or his time. Right? So you go in there with a clear plan of what you're looking to accomplish. So that would be my advice.
Thank you for that.
Sure.
And what would you say your 5 success tips are?
So I think we've kind of touched on quite a lot of them. So I would say my 5 success tips would be clearly define what success means to you.
Okay.
To get started and stop procrastinating, right? That would be number 2. Number 3 would be to work smart. That's different from working hard. You have to work hard, but working smart means that you recognize that you can't do everything. Know your strengths, get those done, and supplement areas that you could use help. Then I talked about building, and so number 4 would be building and nurturing relationships, right? That's very, very important. You can't build a successful business in a vacuum. And then number 5 for me, this one is I think everything I've said so far can apply to everybody, all entrepreneurs. One that's specific to young Black women and men is whenever you get the opportunity for your resume to speak, to get ahead of you before you get into a meeting, I would suggest that you do that. Now, not everybody agrees with me when I say this. Some people don't like to hear that, but I found it to be useful because when I get into a meeting, they already know what my accomplishments are. And, for that first 5 seconds or 5 minutes, depending on the person that I meet, they're not trying to reconcile, what I look like to what I'm purporting to be, right?
That's very good. Yes.
Yeah.
Very good. Very, very different success tip. And can you recommend 2 books that every woman should read?
So I have to admit that I am not really into, the self-help success story books. Not storybooks, but books. I think that a lot of them are valid for different people. For me, I find mentorship and getting real-time, real-life advice more useful than spending my time reading a book. However, there is one book that I have found helpful in my career as an entrepreneur, and I read it a while back, and it's The Tipping Point by Mr. Gladwell. And the reason I find it, again, this may be my engineering mind working, but, the book is just essentially about the law of few, and it talks about the tipping point being as a result of, the 80-20 rule, where it takes, 20% of the people to do kind of 80% of the work. It also talks about the concept of little steps, getting to that tipping point or that threshold where it tips things over and makes a huge difference. And I cannot tell you how many times I've used that in my life as an entrepreneur, because there's so many times where you're doing so much, and then you have to think of them as those little steps, and you have to believe that it'll get to the point where you get to that threshold where it would make all of the difference. And so that whole concept and that whole phenomena, and seeing it in the different narratives that Mr. Gladwell shares throughout the books, just really helps me in terms of relating that to my business. So that would be a book that I recommend, but I'm not a huge reader of success books.
That's a great share. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
And sincerely, thank you for taking the time to give back and share from your heart your journey as a Black woman in business. Is there a last nugget you'd like to leave us with for inspiration?
Thank you so much, Lisa, for the opportunity as well. I would just say to every young Black woman looking to start a business, that, and I'm saying what I would say to my daughter, I have a young girl, is believe in yourself. Don't let anybody ever tell you that you cannot do anything. And hopefully by the time you're doing this, we are living in a different environment where there's more opportunity for us. But regardless of that, push through and just get started and get things done. So
Thank you.
That's what I would say. Thank you so much, Lisa. It's been such a pleasure speaking with you.
Absolutely. And where can our listeners get more information about you, Asmau?
So actually, we're going through super exciting time at Plum Perfect. We're launching a new product, but they can just go to the App Store and download our app. It's Plum Perfect. So just do a search for it in the App Store, and and engage. And with that, we would be able to reach you and share more information about exciting new products that we're launching. I would love your support. So download the app.
Absolutely. So again, thank you for joining the show today. And everyone, remember, lead with value and the revenue will follow.
Thanks for listening to Business Innovators Radio. To hear all episodes featuring leading industry influencers and trendsetters, visit us online at businessinnovatorsradio.com today.